Hey folks, welcome to the Uncivilized podcast. This is Traver, Boehm, your host. As you know, I often don't do introductions like this, but want to give you a little bit of forewarning on this interview. This is one of my favorite people to talk to. His name is David Sutcliffe. And towards the end of the conversation, we get into some deep waters. We talk about subjects that could be harmful for people without warning, and the conversation shifts fairly quickly. So we're talking about sexuality, we're talking about violence, and the combination of the two. So please just note as you get towards the end of the conversation, things get a little bit spicy. All right, enjoy the conversation with David. David Sutcliffe, welcome back to the Uncivilized podcast. It's a pleasure to see you again. Folks listening, I will link his original conversation where we dove into men's work, we dove into trauma, we dove into a bit of his story. But one of the things I want to open talking with you about, David, is that you have recently gone and interviewed Justin Waller, who, if anybody has seen Inside the Manosphere, is well positioned in that movie. And I'm curious, a couple things. Well, actually, for people who haven't heard the original interview, would you mind just giving us a quick and dirty on who you are and what you're doing in the world at the moment? And then I'll dive into my question.
Yeah, I'm a somatic practitioner. I'm trained in a modality called core energetics. I used to be an actor, and then I discovered this therapy is really what it is. And been doing it, I have a private practice, do one-on-one coaching, I do a lot of group workshops. That's really what my specialty is in working with groups. And I've always worked with men, but in the last couple of years, I've really focused my work on men. So it's somatic work, healing work, embodiment work. And I guess I've been doing it since, 12 years, something like that. I mean, I've been doing this work for over 20, but as a facilitator, professionally as a career, I guess since, I don't know when, for a while.
Okay. What's the part of you, because you've also interviewed Andrew Tate before Andrew Tate became who the world knew him, or became as famous as the world knew him as. What's the part of you that's intrigued or pulled into the conversations with, let's call them controversial men? Like, what's there for you before we get into maybe the substance of the conversation?
Well, I think I relate. I'm struck by people in the culture who are provocative. I like the provocateurs. In the Lakota tradition, they call them the Heyokas. And in the Lakota world, the Heyokas are sacred. They're revered. They're the opposite person. And so people like Pearl Davis or Kanye West even, or Donald Trump, these people who stir things up, they're very necessary for the culture. And I understand that they bring up a lot of feelings in people, and they feel upset or offended or threatened, or they feel like these people are a danger. And I understand that. But they're playing an important role in the culture. And I guess there's a part of me that has always been a little bit like that. Like, I'm somebody who a lot of people consider controversial. When I was going through my training, I was that guy in my training, the guy who was kind of pushing the boundaries and stirring things up and maybe saying the things that nobody else wanted to say. And of course, mixed up in that is our own stuff. Like, it's not that these characters are that the provocateur in them is not also informed by their trauma or their history, or they're working something out too. But I just, I don't know, I like and appreciate them. And I guess I see through it. Like in Andrew's case, it's very clear to me that there is a performative aspect to what he's doing, that there's a nudge, wink, wink often. And I think it's hard for some people to see. I think his fans get it. Like, with this Inside the Manosphere documentary that came out recently, like a lot of the kids who listen to these guys, they're like, Dad, it's funny. He's funny. Like, I know it's a joke. I know he's not being totally serious when he's talking about women in that way. But I also understand the parents' concern, because they're pushing back on something. There are lies in the culture, and are they getting it all right? Maybe not. But there's a lot of things that Tate says, or Justin says, or even Kanye has said that a lot, not everything, but some things they say that are right. They're correct, and they're pushing at something. And I think that takes a lot of courage. I mean, was it Plato who said, he who tells the truth is the most hated? So if you look at the people who are the most hated in the culture, you wonder, there's some truth that they're telling. And that's my baseline assumption. Even if they're not telling it in a way that is always palatable or kind or, able to be received, let's say. Tactful.
I want to ask you a personal question, but I want to also stick with the thread really quickly, just to say, and this may be an off-base question. Do you feel, though, with some of these guys that the harm that they're doing outweighs the truth that they're shining the light on?
No, I mean, I don't feel that way. Because I think that there's a lot of people in the culture who purport to be doing good, that are actually doing a lot of harm. And so, and it's harder to call them out.
Say a bit more about that. Say a bit more about that, if you would.
Well, I think that there's a kind of righteousness that happens. It can happen on the right with the religious right, where they get righteous, and it's like, morality and God, and they can become controlling and shaming and arrogant about it. And I think that also happens on the left, with their kind of secular religion, call it woke. And where everything has to be fair, and there needs to be reparations, and all the things that they talk about. And I think there's something that's shadowy and dark in that is harder to call out. So it's much easier to point at Andrew Tate and say, well, he's the bad guy, he's doing the bad things. And I don't necessarily know that that's true. I think everybody's got a shadow. Everybody's culpable, and people there's nobody, myself included, that if you're outspoken, if you really want to have an impact, there's no way to escape your shadow emerging and actually doing harm. I mean, I think about it, in terms of my relationship, right? Like, I'm in a loving relationship. I think I'm in a very good, healthy relationship, but there are times throughout the course of the relationship where we have both been cruel to each other, like deliberately so. Like, I'm going to say or do the thing that hurts you because I feel I have a right to, because of, what I feel you did to hurt me. Right, and that's really a part of every relationship. And taking ownership of that cruelty that we're all capable of, I think, is important. And I'll go one step further. Sometimes that cruelty, and I'm talking about it in terms of the relationship, but I also think it can be true in the world. Does it do harm? It can, but it can also sometimes be the thing that's needed to liberate some deep truth or pain that doesn't want to be felt. And, I've seen it in my work over and over. I'm a big fan of tenderness. I'm a big fan of compassion. I'm a big fan of awareness. But what I also know is that to go to these deep places to uncover the lies that are in the culture, that are in between two people, or that we have with ourselves, sometimes it takes an event, a disturbance, some force that doesn't feel good, that is a kind of cruel, to shake us up and force us to confront it. So I don't think that, I think these people in the culture like Tate, who are coming with this energy, again, is that the end game? Is that the only thing we need? No. But I think sometimes things get so solidified, if you don't have a character like that who just comes in with the sword and breaks it all up and upsets everybody, it gets things moving. And I think we need that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
Obviously, I understand not everybody's going to agree with me. But that's what I see. That's what I 100%. See that. And that's what and it's just also like that's how it's been for, ever on this planet. There's just, that's how it seems to be. That's how we do it.
Yeah. If you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm curious about, for you personally, like, what does it activate in you? Or do you have a bit of the trickster, the word, what did you say? Hokote? Is that the word you use for
Heyoka.
Lakota? Heyoka.
Yeah.
What is it that's coming alive in you? I want to ask you a 2-part question just so I don't forget.
Yeah.
What is coming alive in you? And then what do you think it is about you, David, that's unique, that you get to cut through and meet these men in a way that other people can't or won't?
I love them. I see myself in them. And there's the part of them that's maybe sad or broken or lonely and is compensating with aggression or force or arrogance. I relate to that. I have some of that myself. And so it's very easy for me to see through the facade to the wounded boy underneath and to talk to them from that place. And I understand that it's harder for other people to see that. And it's been hard for people to see that in me, in part because I don't show it, right? Like it's 2 parts, right? Like I'm not seen because it's like, well, look at you. You're tall, you're good looking, you were an athlete, you're successful in the world. Nobody really cares about your pain. And, but I have pain.
Yeah.
And, but there's also part of me that's like, yeah, I'm angry or resentful that I'm not seen or recognized because I'm this, quote unquote, privileged white man. So there's pain there, but there's also a place where I have traditionally and still do refuse to show my pain because it feels too vulnerable. So, it's that bind that I put myself in. I want to be seen and recognized, but I won't show myself. But if I don't show myself, I can't be seen and recognized. So in some way, I think I'm working out my own issue there with these guys.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting down with them and I'm like, hey, I'm a safe place. I get you. I'm not going to judge you here, to let down and show us a little bit of your pain.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, brother. I get the last 10 minutes will be controversial for people. And there'll be people who are triggered by the fact that we're not just immediately condemning as like bad, everything bad, throw out all bad things. I love watching interviews with people who folks say shouldn't be interviewed. Like, how dare you give them a platform? How dare you even give them voice? And
right.
That's an interview I want to watch, especially as an interviewer. I would love to be the interviewee. I think it's one of the most fascinating things to get to sit with someone who's very controversial and ask them about their life. You and I have probably gotten 1% of the incoming projection that very controversial men have received. And I know it's taken a lot of my own training, skill, and support to sit there in it and not collapse and be like, yeah, this isn't about me. But when it comes and it comes and it comes and it comes, it actually does take some skill and training, or even reaching out. I reached out to a buddy the other day and I was like, hey man, just want to let you know, I got a lot of shit coming at me right now. And I think I'm okay, but I don't want to wake up a week from now, like with a bong in my lap and 2 hookers on my couch and be like, I don't know how this happened.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. Well, that's, and I feel you there, Traver, because I made a video the other day and people got all upset, and, I should be used to it by now, but there's a part of me that's not. It still kind of hurts or it scares me. And, because I feel misunderstood, like, because the criticism is like, well, that's not really what I was saying.
Yeah.
But okay, you're taking it that way and you're making me the bad guy. And it is a lot to hold. And that's actually one of the reasons that I respect and admire people who put themselves out there, like Andrew, like Trump, like Obama, like all these politicians are, really come out, is that they are willing and able to tolerate a lot of transference, both positive and negative. I love you.
For sure.
I hate you. Yeah. And none of it is really real. It's all projection, but they have to kind of hold all of that. And how do you hold on to yourself while the world is projecting all of their shit onto you, they're unresolved. You know, in the case of Trump, I think it's mostly unresolved daddy issues. You know,
It definitely
it's
is.
like, I hate my dad, I hate Trump. You know?
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever told you this story. This was like a beautiful moment in my own internet journey that within about 90 seconds, I got 2 DMs, which were like, I really want to fuck you. And fuck you, you're the worst writer I've ever read. And I was like, this is the universe just being like, welcome to the game, son.
That's right. That is the
and
game.
have to sit between the two and say, neither one of these affects me either way.
Right.
Hey, folks, I hope you're loving this conversation with David Sutcliffe. I certainly did. If you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to check out the link we have in the caption, where I'm inviting you to the most comprehensive men's program we've ever put together with the Uncivilized Nation, and that is called The Program. It is a 2-year track to take you from civilized to uncivilized, from broken down to thriving, from out of alignment and lost to in alignment and absolutely kicking ass. So please check out the link. If you are listening to this, please just go to www.manuncivilized.com/the nation and check out the program. Talk to me a little bit, David. One of the things I've had to contend with, and I know and you just spoke of, which I want to bring into the audience via the conversations you have with these men. How do you personally navigate, work with people to navigate, interview people about the willingness to be misunderstood? Because I think that hits a core wound for a lot of people, men and women, and it really gets personified when you put something out into the world and then lose control over the context of it. Yeah. You're not going to sit there and be like, no, you guys didn't get it. Like this week, this thing happened. And so that's why I said that. Talk to me about that. How have you navigated it? How have you seen people navigate it? How would you advise people to navigate it?
It's a great question. I guess I'd start with, why would you want to navigate it? Because it sets you free. Mm-hmm. Once you're unconcerned with what people think of you, you're free to do what it is you want. And I think unconsciously, many of us are in some way showing up in the world very cognizant or aware of how other people are going to talk about us or think about us or receive us. And so we modulate ourselves, we betray ourselves, we, orient ourselves in a certain way to make everything okay. And so we're in some sense, we're in our mask. We're not totally authentic. And so, when I'm working with anybody and for myself, it's like, I want to be authentic because I want to feel free to express myself. And I know that the cost of that is I'm going to be misunderstood. And what you have to understand if you're going through that is that you can tolerate that. It's very hard for the child to tolerate being misunderstood by the parent. And so you're naturally going to betray yourself or give yourself away or shape yourself into a version that is palatable for your parents. And that becomes a habit. And then we learn to do that in the world. And there's nothing else the child could have done because they need to stay in connection in order to survive.
Sure.
But we don't really need to do that anymore. Yeah, there's a tribal instinct. We want to stay in connection with the tribe, because if we're kicked out of the tribe, it's hard to survive. That's also in us. But really, if you're willing to be authentic, if you're willing to say what it is you really think and feel and tolerate all of that transference and understand that it is transference, like that's the hard part, is to really see, okay, that's not about me. Even if because somebody wrote something in response to something that I made, they wrote and they were like, oh, I was like, actually, yeah, they got a point. That's true. But even if it's true, the need for them to say it, to write the comment, is an indication that there's something in them that has been provoked. And so I need not take it fully personally, right? Like they're having an experience of what it is that I said, and I'm not responsible for their experience of it. And it's to really understand that, and then to understand the goodness of that. Like everybody wants that. Who doesn't want that? And so it's like, there's something about, if I can model that and not be a dick about it, but if I can model that, like, I'm going to be free. And oh, by the way, you can too. Even if you're saying something on the complete opposite spectrum, I want you to feel free to say it. I want you to be liberated. And from that place, actually, both of us could have a real conversation, because we're both in our authenticity. And that's, I think, a healthier way to get to deeper layers of truth. So it's just that it's tolerating the discomfort.
Before you go on,
yeah.
Can I ask you just to define transference for someone who doesn't know that term?
Yeah, well, transference is essentially a form of projection, but in therapy speak, it means that you're always aware of the client projecting or transferring whatever their stuff is onto you. And so in my case, very often, because I have a gray beard and I'm a man, I have to be aware that my clients are going to be transferring their father stuff, whatever issues they have with their father, onto me. And that there's a lot of complexity in that, right? Yeah. That therapists need to really understand and hold. And so, but when you're a public figure, that's happening at scale, and people are transferring their own issues. So, with leaders, of any leader, male or female, but the male, it's more likely people are going to transfer their father issues. The female leader, their mother issues, because they represent authority, they represent leadership, they represent somebody who has control over them. So all of the feelings and emotions and beliefs that got established when they were children in response to their parents and, let's say, their teacher and aunts and uncles, all of that is going to be unconsciously projected onto these people. And so we're not seeing them clearly, right? And so if you want to be a leader, and I teach this, you have to be willing to hold and understand other people's transference without taking it personally. It's actually, I would say that it's part of your job.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it, that it's like in the job description, this is going to happen, right? Talk to me a little bit about your relationship to the word and the idea of liberation. This has come up, and the reason I'm asking this, David, is it's come up for me a couple times this week. And I was even saying to a client a couple days ago, underneath all of uncivilized marketing, there's the gorilla, there's the Buddha, there's like all these sayings and shit, is to me the idea of liberation, of liberating men first from any kind of patterning or conditioning that keeps them from not expressing themselves fully. So I would love to hear your take on the word, on your relationship to it, on its depth for you. Is it a soul expression? Is it your dharma? Is it just something that interests you intellectually? Like, I'm curious about you as a human, more so than you as a therapist or a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess I would say that freedom, for me, freedom or liberation is the highest value that I think that I have, maybe like courage, or that I want. It's the thing that I'm longing for, and the thing that I'm trying to promote and help people achieve, let's say. I realized when I first started going to therapy that I was not free, that I was bound by the programming that I received in my childhood. And so I went on a deep dive, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, it continues, really trying to understand the nature of that programming and the complexity of it, and how it unconsciously controls, my thoughts and my actions. And so I don't know that, can we ever, we get fully free in every moment? I don't know that that's a thing, because we are here on the planet, and we all received programming, and very, unless you're Jesus Christ or, Krishnamurti, or you're going to sit in a cave for 40 years. Like even those guys, it's like, I think it's just moments of enlightenment. of true internal freedom. But we want to have awareness and humility around it. And so ultimately, the way that I've come to think about liberation, it's really just presence. And if I can get present in the moment, really, I'm free. I'm free of worrying about the future. I'm free of litigating the past.
That's a great way
And
to
I'm
put
just
it. Thank
right
you.
here, right now. Yeah. With you in the experience of it. And if you ask somebody, you know, the times in their life when they felt most free, most liberated, they're probably going to describe some moment that it was an embodied experience. They were, you know, playing some sport and they were just lost in it, or playing music, or making love, or there was a sunset that they dissolved in, or they were swimming in the ocean, surfing, something that they were fully present. And so that ultimately, that's how I see liberation. And, you know, it's the letting go of the mind. And because I think once the mind gets involved, you're in a construct, you're in an idea, you're in a narrative, you're in a story. You're not really in reality. You know, the mind is not reliable in that way. So yeah, it's really just about embodiment. And how do we become more embodied? How do we become more present in our experience, which requires, for men, and this is really, I guess to the heart of what it is that I'm teaching, is you have to be able to be present with your emotional experience in the moment. And that's where most men and women, to be honest, we disassociate. We disassociate from our feelings, and then we compensate and we create a story in our mind. And so a big part of what I'm trying to teach people is like, okay, can you stay present here in your feelings, in your sadness, in your anger, in your grief, in your pain, in your hurt, in your fear, in your not knowing? Can you actually stay present in that experience? And there's freedom in that, and that you can tolerate those feelings and emotions, and they don't need to overcome you. You don't need to be a slave to them. It's like you can create a container for them, and just learn to sort of be with them the way you'd be with a child who was hurt or scared. You know, you can't really take care of them. They have to go through the experience, but you can be there with them. And that's really all it is that they need, just to know that somebody is there and that they're okay. And so can we give that to ourselves? That's what I'm trying to teach in terms of the emotional part, and that we all have a shadow and you're never going to be able to truly escape from it. And can you be present with your unconscious negative intentions? Because that's also important too, right? There are times, like just what I said earlier about my wife, like I'm much more safe for her when I am aware that I have the capacity to hurt her, and that there are times when I feel hurt that I have the intention to hurt her, right? To say the mean thing, like to poke at her, right? That's part of my humanity. I'm not proud of it, but I also, like, I'm not ashamed of it either, because I know that it's just like, it's just part of what it means to be human. And I have not met a human that doesn't have that, if they're really honest with themselves. And so it also makes me much more forgiving towards her when she's, you know, loses her mind or says something mean or cruel in these moments. And I just, you know, we get along great. There's these micro moments that we have sometimes. I'm painting this picture that we're brawling all the time. It's not the case. It's just that that's the place where, you know, it comes out, right? Like mostly in our romantic relationships, because they're so challenging, right? And then I love to talk about it because, or I think it's important to talk about it because I think it's, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and I've worked with a lot of couples. I've worked with a lot of people in relationships. I know a lot of people in great relationships, and it's fucking hard. And there's everybody at some point along the way loses their mind in it. And we have to be forgiving of ourselves and of the other, I think.
Thanks for sharing all of that. I believe you about your marriage. And I'm curious, David, when it comes to liberation, I'm going to ask you I'm just going to keep asking you loaded questions. Do you find relationship to be a challenge to liberation or a vehicle towards liberation or somewhere in between the two?
I think it's a vehicle toward liberation. I mean, you can avoid it, as I did for a long time. I mean, I didn't get married till I was 54 years old. I mean, I got married when I was 30, but it was it didn't last very long. It didn't feel like a real marriage. It wasn't that committed. So yeah, I avoided it for a long time. And in some way that I was free because I could do whatever I want whenever I wanted, and I didn't have to answer to anybody, and that was great. But there's a cost to that, and I realized at a certain point, if I wanted to continue to grow as a human being, there was no more retreat or ayahuasca ceremony or cross country motorcycle trip that I'd done it all. Yeah. And the big challenge for me was relationship. And so if I wanted to really grow, it was going to have to come through relationship. So I really think about relationship as a spiritual practice, and like all spiritual practices, there can be immense, beauty and joy and pleasure and liberation. But there's any spiritual practice has, frustration and pain and challenge, and it's gonna poke at the places where you're still carrying things, false beliefs or wrong conclusions or unmet needs or unconscious hurt and fear. Like it's going to get to it. So I think it's it's important to understand that. And so that person that's across from you, there are times because they're bringing up the most difficult feelings inside you, they can seem like they're your enemy, but in fact all they're doing is revealing the places inside you where you're not yet fully free. And so sometimes it's hard to see that in the moment, but my wife is really, really good at that. Whenever we come out of a fight, she's always has that frame. It's like, oh, I'm really glad that happened because it made me realize this about myself, and it made me realize something about you, and I feel like it's brought us closer together. And she's right. It's always true. I mean, we're pretty good at resolving things when we do get into conflict, and really, understanding it. And that helps. But yeah, it's for me personally, I think relationships for some people are easy. Like, like certain things are easy for some people and difficult for other people. I'm one of those people for whatever reason. Maybe it's my karma, maybe it's my, birth sign, or maybe it's just my history. My mom was married 3 times. It's probably that relationships have been historically challenging for me.
Yeah, I agree. They have been for me as well. Is relationship your only spiritual practice, or do you have another spiritual practice, or have you had another spiritual practice?
Yeah, I'm pretty deep down the red road, which is the spiritual path of the Lakota people, Native American. So I've talked about it before, but don't like to talk about it too much. But that's where, yeah, Sweat Lodge and other things that I practice in there. But I'm very, very committed and very deeply involved, and work with a lot of different people and on the regular. So that, yeah, it's there. I have a place where I go practice my spirituality regularly, and that it's the most. It's the foundation of my life. Like it's what grounds and roots everything. And I'm an advocate for that, for whatever it is for people. Like God first, like your spiritual practice has to be first. I've learned that.
I want to ask this next question with care, because you just said I don't really speak about it publicly, so I'm not going to ask you to go into it. But I am curious as to why it's something, given how open you are with every other area of your life, that is it just something that you want to hold more private or closer to the fold or more sacred for you?
Because, yeah, no, it's a great question. Because within the tradition, within it, there's a tradition to not so much talk about it, and I have in the past, and I've been told not to, and ultimately, I not. And people do. It's not that, there's a split in the Native American community, like every community. There's a split, right? And about how to approach things and how to talk about things. But yeah, there's just a way in which I've learned that it's probably best to keep some of that, just private. And people, if people are interested, it's like, I guess this is what I'd say about it is it will find you. Like, it's like a kind of, people say that with ayahuasca. They're like, oh, if they want to drink ayahuasca, they don't know where to go. I mean, now it's a little bit easier because there's retreat centers all over the place. But, 10, 20 years ago, it's like, where, how do you find it? And the truth is it'll somehow find you. And that's the same with, if people are curious about going to a sweat lodge, it's like, just set the intention, make the prayer, and it'll find you, and then you'll find out.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
I get asked a lot about where can I go do dark retreat work, and I'm like, it'll find you, it'll call you. You'll step into it.
Exactly.
Beautiful. I appreciate you just sharing that aspect of it. I'd love to shift back to the shadow, and more so to get your opinion on sort of what's unfolding collectively, which I don't want to cede my own thought about, but given what came out, I think it was last summer, with Giselle Pellicot, the woman in France whose husband was drugging and raping her, the Epstein list, and now this recent, whatever we want to look at numerically, just the awareness that there are groups of men in Telegram groups sharing bad things. Do you feel like there's some kind of collective shadow around the masculine or around sexuality that is emerging, or is it growing? And I'm always curious of, was it always happening and now we just have WhatsApp, or has
I think it's always been happening.
Yeah.
I suspect, pedophilia, all of it, all the dark stuff has been going on forever. And there's a lot of complexity as to why. But so I think it is emerging. I think there's something that's coming up to be healed and transformed. I think that's real. In men and in women, just in humans, right? Because I'm a little, I guess the one thing that I'm a little uncomfortable with, I understand the fixation on, men are doing bad things, and that men need to be responsible for that, and other men need to call out other men. I agree with that, and that's absolutely true. But when it comes to the shadow, like I'm an equal opportunity, like it's everywhere in everyone. And so I think, women's rage coming out around it, I think is important. Like I'm a supporter of that, obviously, because there has been a lot of subjugation and abuse, like legitimate abuse. And, we have to make space for it. We have to make space for all of the feelings that people have around it. And unfortunately, this is what the world is. And I don't know what you do about it. This has been around forever. I don't know how you break the cycle. I don't know, it's just, so there's some kind of, I guess what I'm trying to hold is this, that there's the recognition and acceptance of it in some way feels like you're giving into it. But in fact, I think it's like when we accept it, that allows us to see it more clearly for what it is. And when we see it more clearly for what it is, then I think we're better able to try to make the change. I mean, there was an interesting thing that happened on Instagram around this, this guy Therapy Jeff. He's a big influencer on TikTok and Instagram, millions of followers. And, Therapy, he does his thing. He's a Portland guy and,
Sure.
and he came out and said something about there needs to be like a helpline for men who have rape fantasies, essentially. If you have these impulses, right, that there should be a place where men can go and talk about it, which I actually thought was interesting because, of course, like that's the kind of thing that comes up in my workshops, right? And both ways, by the way, because plenty of women have rape fantasies also. And so we allow for all of it to come out and really try to get to the deep root of what's going on there. But he got annihilated for that and was forced to, I guess, apologize, or he got forced to, but he decided to apologize. And again, I understand it, but I was also like, well, if we want to understand, like, don't we want to understand what's going on? Do we just want to like line all these guys up who are rapists and kill them without actually understanding like how they got there? And I've worked with people who have had like deep fantasies. And when you go deep into their trauma, it makes the logic of it makes perfect sense. You can see the thread of what happened to them, the decision they made, and now why they have these impulses. Now, I've never worked with somebody who's acted out on these impulses. So that's a different thing. Yeah. And that would bring up, stronger feelings. Well, no, that's actually not true. I have been in, not facilitating, but I was in a workshop where a guy admitted that for years he abused and raped his stepdaughter. I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, I kind of laughed when I said it, but it was just because it was so uncomfortable. It was so like hard to be with it. I mean, I remember as soon as he said it, yeah, the room just exploded. Like I burst into tears. Like it was just like, because I was just so, it just caused me to, like, it was so disturbing because we'd been with him for a couple of days and he was a sweet guy. He was like he looked like Santa Claus. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, we had this demon in the room. And yet, he was bringing it up. Like there was kind of almost a courage in the admission.
That's complex, man.
Right? Like you kind of have to give him credit for bringing it out.
This was the first time that he had talked about it?
I think so. I mean, I think he had maybe talked about it like with the facilitator beforehand, but then she encouraged him to bring it out to the group. And I mean, the shit that went down was after that was just, I mean, that workshop got real dark in a hurry. And, I guess my point is I've been around it and I've processed like dark stuff around it. So I have a slightly different feeling about it when you see, what's going on underneath. Not, again, it doesn't legitimize anything. And there is a place where, I can just feel like, oh, well, we got to chop your head off. Like, sorry. I mean, maybe something bad happened to you. Maybe you were abused as a child. But you can't do this. And we gotta do something about it. So I have that vengeful part of me. And I have another part of me that's like, okay, this stuff happens all the time.
Yeah. And
it's a kind of an epidemic. And what is going on that are causing people to do that? Like, what is the meaning of all of this? Because I'm very skeptical of, there are bad people over there. And if only we got rid of the bad people over there, everything would be fine. I don't think that's a real thing. I think there's bad in all of us. And I think, it's tricky. It's a tricky thing to talk about.
It's super tricky. Even in this conversation of, I mean, that is an extraordinary thing. I don't know what I would do in a workshop if that came up. because I have, very similar to you, listened to people's deepest, darkest admissions as a facilitator, and listen to people's deepest, darkest fantasies as someone deeply engaged in the BDSM world,
Right.
and say, okay, I know how to hold both of these. And then there is just a part that's a little bit old school, like, and now I need you to take you out back and put a fucking bullet in you. And this is going to be a real clean thing. And,
Kinda.
you know,
Well,
do you think
that's a real impulse. I mean, that there's, you know, a pedophile. It's just like, yeah, we should just kill them. Like, that's my feeling about it. Like you rape
I
a
don't
kid,
disagree.
it's just like, that's it. We got to put a bullet in your head.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. Like, even if you were raped, and I get it. Like, you were acting out, like something happened to you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is what we got to do.
I'm pro bullet with that community as well.
Yeah.
And even I'll share with you, I had an potential interview years ago with a woman who is a therapist in the sex offender world. And she was essentially saying, like, we need to have so much more forgiveness and awareness and openness to that to the, you know, men who abuse children. And I was like, you will not fucking come on my podcast. I cannot have this conversation. I'm still pro bullet. Yeah. But I guess the question I would ask you on top of all that you just said, do you think that perhaps and I know I'm asking you unfair questions, David, but do you think that perhaps the culture is now being asked to hold both ends in a way of a lot of pieces that we weren't asked to hold before? Like the yes and has to be there. I grew up in the 80s where it was like bad people, good people. And now we're going, well, shit. One, not only are the quote bad people all among us, right?
Yeah.
I made a post a couple of weeks ago. They're like, there's an Epstein list in your neighborhood. Trust me.
Yeah.
There's one in your business, and people blew up and got all upset about it. It was like, well, go look at Megan's Law. Like, go see how many of these guys are literally on your street. And we have to be functional as humans, and we can't just run around being vigilantes all day. So do you think we're being asked to hold more complexity as a culture, or is that just our community, the coaching community, the spiritual community, the therapy community, that's seeing it more and more?
That's a great question. I mean, it seems to go back and forth. I mean, a lot, you know, you look at what's going on in El Salvador with Bukele, and he's completely straightened that country out, right? He just went around and like threw a lot of people in jail. I mean, and it's kind of classic Latin American strongman style, right? He's essentially a dictator. But if you ask the people who live there, who went from living in tyranny to now living in safety, they're going to tell you, I don't give a fuck. Like, this place is safe. And now, but is everybody in jail? Like, is it fair? Did they get a fair trial? Did they get a fair run? I don't know. And what happened to these men? It's mostly men in these gangs. What happened to them that they were seduced to being in gangs? You know, were they terrorized as children? Were they beaten? Were their fathers not around? Like, what happened that they chose to act out in that way? Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one because I can go there. I could sit down with a horrible gangster and try to understand them. And in a way, I guess, you know, that, I mean, I think some people would think that's what I'm doing with Tate, because there's been a lot of accusations toward him. But I would talk to these people. I'd be curious to talk to them and find out what happened for them and find out how they feel about it. But ultimately, yeah, we do have to have a functioning society. And so, like somebody like Bukele, I'm ultimately in support of, because it's like he's made people safe, but then he's also kind of a dictator. And you're like, well, what do I do with that? And I think it just gets to the complexity of this world that we live in, that there is no perfect solution. And I think the main thing is just to hold the complexity inside ourselves. That's really what I try to do with myself, and what I try to teach is to understand that, the evil you see, the cruelty you see outside of you also exists inside of you, and to be humble to that. And maybe it doesn't express itself as, physical violence or rape, but there's probably things that you do and say that have a killer energy to them, whether it's towards yourself or towards other. I mean, if you broadcast the voice that is in your head publicly, for most of us, we'd all be locked up as psychopaths. Sure. So it's in all of us.
Is it fair to ask a culture, like, again, this is your work, this is your world. I speak Jungian. I had a Jungian therapist for a year. I'm a total dork about complexity, the primal and the divine. Like, my whole life has kind of been set up as, the cage fighter going through acupuncture school, all of the unique dualities that I've had an awareness of. But do you think it's fair? And I'm just going to ask, do you think it's fair to ask a culture to hold that when so much of this is just beyond foreign to them?
Is it fair? They're probably not going to. I mean, I guess that's one of the things that I've come to terms with. When you start doing this work and you see things and you understand things and then you want to talk about them or express them, you realize that that's just not where most people are at, and that's okay. And so, I don't think that you can ask them to hold that. I think there are those of us that can, or that strive to, but in the articulation of that, much will be misunderstood. I'm sure there's all kinds of things that I've said in this podcast, if somebody was listening to would say, well, you said this, and they're going to project all kinds of meaning onto it. And it's okay. I mean, it is what it is. But I think you're right. I think ultimately we can't ask people to hold that, and right or wrong, I think we do need, there's an impulse for justice, and I understand the desire for punishment is kind of a shadow desire, and yet there are people that I would like to see publicly executed. There's I almost want to bring back a kind of barbarism because of the horrors that have been exposed over the last 10 years. Like a standard has to be set. Like we don't tolerate that. And I understand that it's bloodlust, and yet that's how we've been doing things for a long, long time, and it just seems to me that maybe we need to bring that back a little bit, just to kind of let people know, you can't fuck around like this, man.
Yeah. I'm on team bloodlust too. I think we just need a couple dashes of it, a little shaky of bloodlust. And there's something, I used to give a bracelet to anybody who finished my program with the runes written on it and said, there's an old way, and part of the old way is still is valuable. And we've moved away from the old way as we've gotten more civilized. And yet sometimes you got to take a feral dog outside and put a bullet in it. And I'm sorry, or the rabid dog rather. That's just the way it is. And
it's just the way it is. I mean, I'm down here in Texas, and I've been reading a lot of Texas history about the Texas Rangers. And, it wasn't that long ago, 1840, 1850, 1860, that the Texas Rangers, if they caught you stealing horses, they'd just find you and they'd string you up. And that was it. Hang you on the nearest tree, and justice would be done. And nobody thought twice about it. And now we've got this very complicated justice system, and I'm not quite sure that it's any fairer than what the Texas Rangers were doing back in the day. And there's something to that kind of Wild West frontier justice that feels good to me. Like it needs to come back. There's an order to it. I think that that sets some shit straight.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's done well or right, there's an honesty to it. Where
Yeah, I mean that's the problem, right? It can always be abused, and that's
for sure.
That's the problem. It's like Bukele. It's like, yeah, of course we're happy in El Salvador that he's got rid of the gangs and straightened things, but it's like he's got this power, and it's so easy and we know from history it's so easy for it to become corrupted, and it's almost inevitable that it will be at some point, and the cycle continues. I don't know that there's any way out of it as I've gotten older, and you see the cycles of history, and where we're at in this moment, whether you want to think of it as the fourth turning or the rise and fall of great powers, the Ray Dalio, or you want to think of it as astrology, Pluto returns every 250 years and empires rise and fall every 250 years. I mean, there's all kinds of patterns. And so there's a way in which, it's like, what are you going to do? Like, this is just what's happening. I'm just here to go along for the ride. I'm going to try to make peace with it. This is all a great mystery. Things are not really in my control. And so I'm going to do my best to not worry about it too much, and just, enjoy the sunsets and the sunrise and cuddle with my lady.
Thank you, brother. It's a great place to put a pin in it. David, where are you hanging out? Where can people find you? Is there anything you'd like to offer the audience of something you have coming up?
Not really. I mean, davidsutcliffe.com. I mean, I have stuff going on all the time. You can follow me on Instagram, but yeah, if you go to my website, get on my email list. I don't send out emails all the time, but when I do, it's because I feel inspired to write something, and I usually get a lot of good feedback or announcements if I have something new I'm offering or a workshop that I'm doing. But if you're a man listening, I'm always doing workshops. I don't think I'm doing another one until the fall, but they're good. I do them in Austin, but I'm out there. You can find me.
Awesome, brother. I always appreciate your willingness to have the conversation that a lot of people won't, and a conversation that I know will stir some people up. So thank you for your honesty today. Thank you for coming in and sharing who you are and how you're positioned in the world, brother. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Traver. Thanks for having me.